So you just never know what you're gonna get.
You never know what you're gonna get.
I don't know what this bird is. I've never seen anything like it. It looks like some kind of water bird. Long legs, big feet, long beak. Found it on the side of the road, rolling around, so it's obviously hurt. If you know what this bird is, let me know. Not sure what to do with it. Feel bad. But yeah, there you go. We're back on the 1996 Dodge. Damn. 2500. I apologize for the background noise. It is Labor Day weekend. People are mowing their lawns. So you hear, the mower in the background. It is what it is. That said, happy Labor Day weekend. Are you doing anything fun? We're gonna work on some junk. Let's do updates. I know it's gonna be, by the time this video comes out, a couple weeks since I released a video. I try to do one every week, but this thing's killing me.
Stop it! You're killing me!
So let's go over what we've done and what we need to do. So first update, I don't know if you noticed in the first video, but if you look closely, one of the gas tank straps were broken, and so we replaced those. It's just 2 studs going through cross members and 2 nuts. Well, those 2 nuts were rounded and rounded off, and it literally took me an hour to remove the 2 nuts. But not the end of the world. So the real problem with this truck and with Dodges in general are wiring. So in order for us to get a state inspection, one of the things we need to address is the lack of reverse lights. We had no reverse lights. I don't know if you're like me, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that you don't enjoy wiring. My knowledge of wiring is not vast. It is amateur at best.
I am such an idiot.
That said, don't know if you already noticed, but we sourced our license plate bracket. It wasn't cheap. Anywho, we sourced that out, got that installed. Because of the lift gate, we did have to source some new pigtails for the license plate lights, which we installed. The plug for said license plate light was still there on this side, but it was missing on this side. So we had to go to the junkyard and steal that piece of harness in order to get this side to operate. I like to start simple because that's just, that's how my brain works.
Ain't got no gas in it.
Very simple. So with the reverse lights, we obviously started with fuses. Oh, something just flew out of there. That's good. All those fuses checked out, and the fuses in the fuse block or power distribution block or whatever you like to call it, those all checked out. If you also notice, as far as updates, I believe we discussed the starter relay being wired outside of the fuse block. Something obviously melted, corroded, whatever, and instead of just buying new wire terminals and wiring correctly, they wired on the outside. Well, my anal brain could not handle such things, so we went ahead and after measuring the wire terminal and taking 45 minutes to find the right wire terminal, we went ahead and, come on now, wired said starter relay here back in the power distribution block. Works, everything's good. So that's done. Again, those fuses checked out. So of course we also did the obvious bulb check, switched out bulbs, make sure, obviously coincidence of having 2 bulbs out are unlikely. And of course that was the case. So after all the simple checks, we then, we got a violet and black for our power wire and a black for our ground. We then headed inside to the computer to try and look up wiring diagrams and see what everyone else was doing. Actually, let's back up. I want to say, nope, that is what we did. So on the computer, everyone says, you know, these trucks are infamous for grounds. So that's, you know, wiring in general, but it seemed grounds was a big issue. So that's what we started with. Basically, as you know, we just started tracing wires. This was all just hanging down in a big cluster, and that's just all your trailer wire. And then right about here, there is a 6-into-1 ground connector that was hanging on by a thread. Dodge just puts basically a clamp around everything and then wraps it in something. Whatever they wrapped it in was deteriorated, degraded, and hanging on by a thread. So we repaired that. I actually even went ahead and added a ground. The ground for the would be the right backup light. That ground was just hanging out in here, so we attached that to the 6-in-1. And then there was something in a form that behind the gas tank where the fuel pump ground connects into the harness. That was melted on a guy for him, so we dropped the tank out. That 2-into-1 ground was again hanging on a thread. Clamp was highly corroded and the wrap was no longer there. Repaired that and actually did the same thing. We went ahead and, where is it? Here it is. Added a ground for that, just for shits and giggles.
That's all for shits and giggles.
Just to make, you know, insurance. We also went ahead and that ground was highly corroded. Basically went through all the grounds, sanded them, added them, repaired them. Oh, by the way, we got the horns to work. We got those at the junkyard. I'll show you the old ones in a minute. They were completely rotted. One was just hanging there. So we went to the junkyard while we were there, grabbed these horns. We now have horns. It did sound like it was... We do have horns. At first they sounded like you were stepping on a cat's tail. And after just holding the button for a while, they cleared up and now sound normal. Don't know why. Don't know if there was stuff in there. We did blow them out. And we now have horns. On another side note, while I'm thinking of it, the washer pump pigtail was non-existent. There was just 2 cut wires. I figured out which 2 they were, and the washer pump seemed original, so we just ordered a pigtail and a washer pump, and we now have windshield wash, which I believe is part of inspection now. Sorry, my finger's in the way because I'm an idiot. And there you go. Washer spray. Fixed, repaired. Okay, back on wiring. So after fixing all the grounds, we still didn't have reverse lights. So the next thing I did was come to our reverse switch. Everyone's saying the reverse switch didn't go. This one has been removed. I'll show you in a minute why. And I wasn't getting continuity on it. So, oh, perfect. We found the problem. Bad neutral safety switch. Neutral safety reverse switch, I guess is what Dodge calls it. So we went ahead and replaced that, and still no reverse lights. We checked power coming in on the light green and brown wire, and we had power there. We had power on, I believe, black and white wire, which is the neutral safety part of it, but we had no power going out on the violet black wire. So at that point, I started tracing the violet and black wire throughout the entire harness, trying to find breaks, trying to find shorts. I did not back probe because I don't have back probe pins, and I don't really like to do it that way. So I'm gonna, you know, again, I'm not an expert. I don't do this every day. I'm not a Dodge guy, but not gonna sit here and lie. I have probably 6 to 8 hours of chasing wires, repairing grounds, fuse block, under the dash. We checked pretty much every wire in this thing. Under the dash, I don't know if you can see it, that wire was all chewed up, not sure why, just put some liquid electrical tape. The wire for the brake light switch, that just was cut and a piece of wire coming off of it for God knows what. We repaired that. The speaker wire was broken, that's no big deal, but it just seems like every part of this wiring had been touched. And well, Mike, why didn't you video it? And that's simply, there's just too much swearing going on. This was killing me. It wasn't fun crawling underneath this truck 100 times. The research, again, not doing it every day. It was a nightmare.
My dreams became nightmares.
Absolute nightmare for me. So at the end of the day, this was actually yesterday, after doing more research, well, let's just go in the old rotten barn and I'll show you what I found. So this is the neutral safety switch, reverse backup switch that was in the vehicle to begin with. It did not ohm out correctly, and that's why I initially replaced it with this one here. And as you can see, they're identical. NS11, that's the part number. Well, I put that switch in, and you guessed it, still no backup lights. That was in the middle of the process or in the beginning. I don't remember. Like I said, I'm hours and hours into this. I don't know exactly what day. That was probably one of the first things I did. I can't remember, okay? My 2 brain cells aren't working in unison right this second. I'm a little stressed. Anywho, what I end up finding yesterday is, oh, here's a good one. The whole love-hate thing with the internet. One of the forums said, hey, take the sensor out, depress the plunger, and see if you have reverse lights. I tried to find that quote so I could show you the actual quote so I wasn't, bullshitting you, but that's what it said. So that's what I did. I took the thing out, put it in reverse, key on, used one of these clamps, clamped the thing, and you guys are probably laughing. Those who deal with this every day are laughing right now going, yeah, no reverse lights. Well, I happened to go on a forum, and I wish I had thought about this. They said just, connect the dots, take the plug off, and, connect A and B and see if you got power. You see if you have lights. So I did that, and when I initially did that, it didn't work. So, for whatever reason, I can't remember, even though this was just yesterday, I had this plug out, this sensor out, and had it plugged in and just hanging there, and this is what it was. I actually looked inside the transmission expecting to find, pardon my French, a dick, a tit, something that sticks out. When you put this in reverse, it presses on that plunger, and that's what, connects the 2 dots. Well, as I'm really looking inside that transmission and studying on it, it doesn't have a dick. It has the opposite, and I'm not going to say what the female part. Let's just call it the female part. So my 2 brain cells, the light bulb went on, and I said, it doesn't work the way you think it works. It works the opposite way of the way you think it works. Again, if you see this all the time, I'm not a transmission guy. I'm not a wiring guy. I'm not a Dodge guy. I'm not really anything, if you haven't noticed so far. So it doesn't connect the dots with plunger in, it connects the dots with plunger out. So at that point, I plugged you know, the sensor in, outside of the transmission, not depressed plunger, and guess what happened? Boom. Reverse lights. There they are. OMG. Whatever. Crap your pants.
No, it's true. I shit myself.
You know, I was just, you got to be kidding me. Yes, we still needed to fix grounds. Yes, we needed to still add wiring that was missing. So that was all not for nothing, but the amount of hours we spent could have been avoided. So it gets better after that. When I initially ordered this sensor, ordered it on Amazon, this one showed up. So I ordered a standard, and I forget the number. I think it was like an NS240. And I actually tried it when I initially got it. As you can see, it's the same thread, but it's much shorter. And I actually put it in and tried it. And you're saying, well, Mike, what's the problem? Why didn't it work? Well, here's why it didn't work. Here's the old plug. And because, well, here's even better. Well, let's start with, here's the new pigtail. This way I can show you. See how pliable that is? Squishy. Cool, it even came with butt connectors, which I thought was pretty cool. That is a standard part S747, if you're curious. Well, here's the old plug. Yeah, after 27 years, this thing is petrified. Now, again, if you deal with this every day, maybe this is supposed to be like this, but I highly doubt it. So when I initially installed this plug, and I don't have two hands, and tried to connect said plug, because it was so hard, I couldn't fit this plug onto the sensor. Oh, get back here. See that ring? It would not fit over that ring, and it was missing by like a millimeter. It was next to nothing, and I'm just like, well, because we started with that one that someone had already put in, and because we couldn't fit the plug over this one must be wrong, right? Wrong. If you look on this plug, well, we don't have that ring, and we actually, if you look, the terminals are much longer. So the old plug fit right over, back it up here, this one, no problem at all. So, after pulling my hair out, the noose is hanging from the ceiling, we're ready to call it a day. I think we have it figured out. I haven't tried it yet, so we're gonna wire this pigtail in. We're gonna, I have tried putting this plug on. Well, it's tight, and I think it's supposed to be, and it has that added, I don't know what you want to call that sticking out there. Almost looks like a key. But I'm assuming that helps hold it in. Well, it's tight getting that ring seated in there. It will seat in there, and I think that's there on purpose to help seat that, help keep it from coming off. Where this one doesn't have that rubber wedge, whatever. So, that said, let me get this thing wired in, plugged in, and let's see if it fixes the problem. I'm not going to film it. It's screwing in a plug. It's 3 butt connectors. Pretty boring. I'll spare you the, and I'll bring it back in when we see if it works. I have no idea if it's going to work. I'm fairly confident, but let's see what happens. Our switch is in, our plug is attached, and if you can see there, we have our wires connected. I try to stagger the connectors so we can fit the loom and everything back on. I messed one up, so I put it, under the transmission line instead of over, like in true Mike sense. So yeah, it's all connected. I did not do the loom or heat shrink with the old, butane torch because we haven't tried it yet. But that said, let's go turn it to run position and see what happens. Reverse. Well, looky there.
Man, looky there.
Unbelievable. If you only knew what I went through mentally and physically. I don't know, when you guys, I don't have a creeper, I've been meaning to get one. Do you guys, when you crawl under these things 100 times, does your neck and your traps just absolutely ache? I should come out with like a mechanic's pillow that you can at least rest your head on so your neck doesn't get all jacked up. Anywho, I should feel happy, but it was such a battle that there is some relief, but we're not out of the woods yet. So let's continue and see what else we have to do. So if you see there, we have an ABS and brake light on. So in Massachusetts, you are allowed to have the ABS on, but not the brake light. I believe it's a safety. And so, yeah, let's see. I'll show you what I started with that, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I started with the obvious, first being lift up the brake pedal. Because, you know, sometimes the switch, you end up with play, or the switch gets sloppy, or blah, blah. You know what I'm trying to say. Lifted that up, did not make a difference. Try your parking brake, lift up on that. Is that the cause of your brake light being on? Start simple, you know what I mean? Of course, that didn't work, so keep it on that theme. Check your brake fluid. Is it low? Wasn't low, so we're out there. Cleaned up that ground there, not that it means anything. Looked at, this connector. I don't know what these do. I don't know if this is part of the ABS. I'm assuming it is. One's a proportioning valve, I believe. I'm not sure what that one is, to be honest. If you know what it is, let me know. So at that point, go on, get back to the internet, which I did. So according to the internet, which, is sometimes right, they said if your light comes on a minute after you start the vehicle, then most likely it is this guy here. This does not have four-wheel ABS, it just has the rear wheel. So in true Mike sense, we just said, well, for $20-something or whatever this sensor was, it wasn't much. Let's just throw a part at it because I'm lazy and I just want to keep moving here. And after the reverse light debacle, I'm like, well, guy's tired. I'm tired. So, of course, we threw the sensor at it. Well, let's back the truck up a bit. Getting the old sensor out. I unplugged it. Getting these, the nut that holds the parking brake off was all rotted, rounded off. Struggled with that, got that off. The nut underneath that holds the sensor actually came right out. Obviously, the sensor themselves, if you've done these before, they're seized in there. I'm pretty sure this was the original one, rotted to death. In true Mike sense, what do? You guessed it. Instead of wiggling it, trying to wiggle it back and forth to work it out of the hole, what do? I pry up straight up on the thing. So you know what happened. Snap.
Oh, snap!
So now in my brain, not having done one of these in forever, I feel like, okay, now we got to take the diff cover off and push the thing up and out. Well, you see the position that's way up front here. You have ring gear here, and of course you can't get anything up there that I know of to get under that between the ring gear or the tooth or whatever you want to call the thing that counts the square wave on the teeth, blah, 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 blah. You can't push it up and out is what I'm trying to say. So, the trick that I remember is drill out the sides because there's a magnet there and get a screw in there and pry it up. Well, I tried that and that didn't work. The thing was in there. Eventually I figured out, put 2 screws in it and a pair of vice grips and work the thing back and forth like you were trying to spin it in the first place, and that worked. And after a long time, probably an hour, we got the sensor out. in pieces, but it did come out. Replaced the sensor, and you guessed it, ABS light still on. So the next thing I did was unplug this pigtail. That's, it's missing all the coating. It was in rough shape. Unplug it there, put it on the bench, check for continuity, there you go. And the pigtail tested good on both wires, no breaks in the wire. And that is about as far as I got. So we still have to diagnose the ABS, so it's back to the internet for me. If you have any ideas on this, please let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to get back on the computer and deal with that. But we're still not out of the woods. So hopefully the final thing, in the great state of Massachusetts, where the rules and regulations are extreme and absurd, any jagged metal or possible intrusions, I don't know. Basically, if carbon monoxide can get in the vehicle, even though, the tailpipe's on the rear, Massachusetts says, nope, that is an instant fail. Same thing with the rocker panel. Again, I think it's a ridiculous rule.
Ridiculous.
Let me know, in your state, do they have a rust rule, rot rule? And do you have to address these same issues? So let's go see the solution for that, and we'll go from there. So these came yesterday. We have our left-hand fender and our rocker panel for the passenger side. It came in this massive box with multiple coupons, and that's it. And when I mean that's it, there was no packing material, no bubble wrap, no one of those big airbag cushion tape deal, nothing. It was a fender and cardboard and a rocker panel. And it just, where's quality control? You know what I mean? And my surprise, to my surprise, this rocker panel is not dented nor scratched. The fender, I don't know. Made in Taiwan, so you know it's good. Question on that. Do we have any foundries left in the United States? Do we make steel here anymore? I don't think we do, if I remember right. I think it's due to air pollution reasons. I think we don't have steel mills, foundries, whatever you want to call it. Let me know. What do you know on that subject? I think that's why all metal comes from elsewhere, if I remember right. Anywho's ways, let's unbox this and see if we have any damage. All right, you get the gist. It's hard with two hands. Hard with only one hand. Let me get this unboxed and I'll bring you back in and show you what we. So after looking it over, to my amazement, there is only, see if I can get it. Sorry for the glare, it's just the angle of the dangle. The sun, there it is right there. There's one little tiny dent there, but the rest of it, nothing. No damage, no scratches, no nothing. So I'm very happy with that. I expected this thing with no packing in the box to be destroyed and have to send it back and deal with the whole frustration of getting things shipped to your house. So that's what we got on our plate to at least get this thing inspected. We got to figure out the ABS light. We're gonna do a couple body panels. Obviously on the rocker where we have to, I've never done this before either, by the way. I've done the fender before. I had a 1500 and they all rot out here and changed that out. I can't remember what I did with the inner fender that's spot welded. I know I didn't cut these spot welds out. I can't, for the life of me, I can't remember what I did. It was a while ago. But I got a spot weld cutter. Never used it before, got to figure that out. It's basically like a little hole saw. Cuts around the spot weld, and that's how you separate the inner fender. That's how you're going to separate and install the rocker panel. Plug weld it after cutting the old one out. Never done one before. Watched the video on it, and yeah, we're going to give it a go. There is another issue I'm going to show you that we have to address before the snow flies, so let's go take a look at it. I can't remember if I mentioned this in the first video or not. I think I did. This is the front axle. We obviously need a pinion seal, not the end of the world. And on the, ouch, that was my cranium. You see we got a leak there. And you see we have a leak out of the transfer case. What's interesting is it's leaking through the yoke. The seal itself is not leaking. So, as aforementioned in the first video, I had plow parts. Well, the guy who bought the plow parts was a Dodge guy. So I said, well, how is it leaking through the yoke? I've never seen that before. So I guess there's a metal on metal seal in there, and I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but he said just remove the yoke, clean up where the two metal bits, come together. I'm assuming the yoke and something else back there, and then replace the seal and you should be good. So that's what we're gonna do. This is where we're at with the ABS/brake light. According to the internet, the wheel speed sensor itself is supposed to be between 1,000 and 2,000 ohms. I ohmed it out, we were at 1423, so that tested in the green. As far as this harness coming off the sensor that comes up to this plug on the, where are we here? Where, follow the yellow brick road, right there. That harness, I checked for continuity and it ohmed out, no breaks in the wires. I did, however, cut the middle out and put new wires in because there were several points where it was broken, chewed on. You could see exposed wire, strands broken. So just to cover my bases, like I said, I cut the middle out and put that back in. Okay. From this plug by the rear of the fuel tank forward, we'll go check the other end. That would be that black plug there. Between that plug and the plug in the rear, we had continuity on the, I believe it's red and violet, light purple, and white and light purple. Had continuity. Now, the only place is from that black plug to inside the cab where it connects to the ABS module. So from that white and purple wire to red and purple wire to the plug, we had continuity, so no resistance. So at that point I was stumped and went back on the internet and learned how to pull ABS codes out of here. So I'll just show you real quick if you don't already know. You just grab a jumper wire like such. According to the internet, you come to your data link connector, you go to fourth from the right, black wire here, jam it in there like so, and then we're going to do key on, run position like so. Now you got to wait till the ABS brake light comes back on after the computer does its checks and balances, so to speak. It'll just take a few seconds. Bear with me. There it goes. So once that comes on, all you do is go to your wire and put it to ground. I'll show you what the dash cluster does. All right, we're going to touch the ground here. And you see it just did that. And now it should blink. Let's count the blinks once it stops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it'll just keep doing that until you do power off. So we had a code of 9. I looked that up online. and it says high resistance. Basically it's saying we have a break in the wire somewhere. I guess there's only 13 of them, but someone else says there's 15 of them. So again, the internet. So that's where we're at. Another side note, let's turn key back on. You can see where the fuel level is. Yeah, we lost fuel gauge as well. So that's just got me, you know, all sorts of excited.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
So for me, rooting around, I don't know where I'm pulling on something. We amazingly lost fuel level cluster action. So yeah, that's where we're at. So that said, I will say one other thing. When you unplug this ABS module there, the lights go out and it drives fine. So my question is to all of you, if you've been through this before, if I just leave that unplugged and go to get a state inspection, are we going to be fine? Is that going to show up on codes? I mean, this thing's a 96. Are they going to be able to say, hey, we have no communication with the ABS? And again, I don't think so in the state. The ABS matters. It's the brake light, which is the safety fault. If they see that, then it's automatic safety fail. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm just sick of the wiring on this truck. Like I said before, I got hours and hours and hours poking and prodding. And it's, you know, I'm very excited we figured out the reverse lights, but it's like 1 step forward, 5 steps back with this thing. It's killing me. So if you have any ideas, if you think we can, you know, get it through state inspection without the ABS module plugged in. But I was just going to try that, but my anal brain is just not going to let me do that, especially when now we have a fuel gauge gone. Everyone online says fuel gauge equals fuel sender in the tank or a bad ground. As far as the number 9 code, there was one guy online that had a video, and he said he did the same thing. He tested signal throughout the wires, and then he found a break by back probing the small harness in the rear axle there by the speed sensor. Like I said, I checked continuity through that before I fixed the wires, but again, we have continuity. We have, you know, basically flow, so to speak. I am not a wiring expert, amateur at best, as I stated before. The other thing I tested is voltage. I looked at what are you supposed to see for voltages on, you know, your ABS wires. So when I tested voltage from the module to this black plug, we had about, if I remember right, 3 volts. When I tested voltages from this black plug to the rear plug, it dropped considerably. It was like 0.3 or something. And then when I tested it through that rear harness, it was almost non-existent. So I feel like we got a voltage drop, but how is that possible if we have continuity? I mean, I know it's possible, but I'm just not sure what direction to go in. And I'm just super frustrated to the point where, yeah, should I just forget about it, unplug that module, and take my chances at the gas station? But again, my brain doesn't like me to do such things. So what I think I'm going to do is drop the tank, drop the tank, check the harness from here back to that rear plug. The ABS wire is very recognizable because it's twisted together. Let's see, I'll just pull it. Let's see, where are we here? I'll just pull it out of this piece of harness here to show you if you've never seen it. Hard to do with one hand here, just bear with me. Come on now. See, there it is right there. See the twisted, that's your ABS. Why they twist those together, For the ABS, I'm not sure. If you know, let me know. So yeah, we're gonna drop the tank, check the ground for the sender, probably find out how to test the float wires to see if that, I believe it's a potentiometer that does that reading, and see if that's working. And then also at the same time look at our wiring harness. The only thing that really scares me about the whole thing is this. Our fill tube, whatever you want to call it, plus vent line is extremely rusty and rotted. And so I got that to contend with. And yeah, I'm not super happy about it. But I think I'm going to do it nonetheless. We're killing a lot of birds. One stone by dropping that tank because I got this mess. When I asked about a fuel filter at my local parts store, they said it's NA, not applicable. So I'm assuming someone added this, and why they went on with a 90-degree, and it's just, stay with it, Mike. It's just floating there, just literally doing nothing. And then it goes to I'm assuming that's, I don't know if that's factory, but it had a fuel filter or not. The store's saying no, so I don't know what someone did. They added this, added that, but as you follow the fuel line back, it's plastic, but I looked in there, and I don't know if I can get you in there. Probably not. It changes to steel and then back to rubber, so it really should be fixed. It really should be changed. That should be a straight. Why they put a 90 on there, I don't know. But again, this truck, it's just one thing after the other, and we're just, at the end of the day, polishing a turd. But I'd like it to be mostly right, I guess. I don't know. Let me know what you think. This is where we're at. We have the wire from the rear of the vehicle, the ABS wire, pulled all the way out of the harness and up to here. I've inspected every inch of it. I cannot find anything wrong with it, anything obvious. That doesn't mean there's not something inside broken, but I'm going to say highly unlikely. Like I said, I did ohm it out. It did ohm out to 0 on both wires, meaning we have continuity, so no breaks there. Moving on, we have the fuel tank out, which obviously was easier because we already changed the straps. Not a big deal there. Here's this fuel line I was talking about. So here's fuel tank side, or sending unit side, right off the bat. I noticed that big kink. But can you tell me why? Just why? So we got the plastic line going to a metal line, union there, metal bent line, another connector there, back to a plastic line, and then to a 90 that goes to a straight fuel filter that should or shouldn't be there, not sure. I'm tired. I'm so ready to just burn this thing to the ground. But we're not giving up hope yet. So let's address fuel gauge side. Got the sending unit out, and in the rot box over here. And I'll quickly show you what I found. Super simple to test the float switch on these. So if you see over here, if you've never done it, you can see that we got a red and blue wire that works off our float arm. Again, I think that mechanism called a potentiometer. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then, so what I did is set my $5 meter to 200 ohms. I have the two, whatever you call these, prongs, and two brain cells, not in unison. We got those touching the correct terminals for said float arm mechanism, and all you do is you're going to just move this float. It's in the empty position, so at empty we have 112.3 ohms. So just I'm going to carefully do this so I don't knock those probes out, and you just see as we come up to full, we have action. We have a change in continuity. So there's at full, and then you want to, I guess, I did look this up. You know, I'm not that smart. So then you just slowly bring it down and make sure it consistently changes numbers, no spikes, blah, blah, blah. And yeah. So I'm going to call that working. That is working. Obviously the pump side works, truck runs. That said, it is not the sending unit at fault. I did go ahead and check the ground that I already repaired off this sending unit, and that is fine. So now unfortunately we're into, and I believe this float sender is wired directly into the cluster. Correct me if I'm wrong. So at that point, we either got some more broken wires as I was fiddling around in there, or I disturbed something, or bad connector. But yeah, I think cluster is then gonna have to come out. I think it's pretty easy on this thing. So yeah, I'm gonna go check continuity on the ABS wire again. If you know what it's supposed to send for voltage, I think it's only like 2 to 3 volts. I'm gonna see what's coming out of there for volts. I'll bring you in. Let me get set up back over there. We'll do key and run position, wait for the ABS light to come on, and then see what we got for voltage coming out of that wire. Okay, so I ohmed out the 2 wires on either end here, and I didn't show up, but I just don't have 18 hands. I don't have alligator clips and pins to, you know, for extra hands. They ohmed out to 0. So I'm gonna say there's no breaks in these 2 wires from point A to point B. So next, check voltage. So, you know, I just got one end of the ground in the negative side of the battery. We'll just stick this here and make sure our meter is working, 1229. I'm gonna call that good. And then if we go to the red wire, and I don't have enough hands, but we'll just do that and then watch the meter like so. Stay with it, Mike. You're gonna see we have keeps going up. Kind of jumping around. Call it 1.4 volts. This is where I'm kind of lost because I try to look it up online. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I would imagine it's only a couple volts. Is that within range? Are we good? I don't know. If you know the answer, please let me know. At this point, I'm going to call this wire that runs from this plug that runs to our small harness to the back of the axle good. I'm also going to call our float arm mechanism good on that. I am going to replace this, you know what, of a fuel line.
Piece of shit.
Put that all back together, and then I think next is going to be start tracing wires and get, you know, remove this cluster. As far as the ABS module is concerned, everyone online is saying the ABS module does not fail. Let me know if that's true or not. And I guess to replace it, this probably doesn't even exist. You probably have to buy it used. Tried to look up how to test it, didn't get very far. Let me know your opinion on that. Do we need to test it? Does it fail? Would it throw a number 9 code if it was the ABS module? I believe number 2 was for a bad module, number 2 code, which we don't have. We have a number 9 code, which is high resistance, which is telling me a bad wire somewhere. So yeah, that's my plan. Yell at me if I'm going in the wrong direction. I did check. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. I thought we might have blown a fuse on the fuel gauge, but I would assume if we, lost fuel gauge, we'd lose more than just the fuel gauge, and everything else works. And I did check fuses, and fuses are all good. So that's great. It's really coming together on this thing. So let me get the aforementioned stuff back together, and then I'll start to pull this cluster apart and see what we see. Good morning. Back on the Dodge here. We got our gauge cluster out, and no corrosion or burnt anything. Same on that one. Come to our cluster on the back here. Especially on this side where fuel gauges. Nothing obvious there. Scanning the entire circuit board here. There's a little something. Focus right there. Not too concerned about it, but as a whole, I don't see anything obvious. I don't know what that E means right there, or that mark that obviously someone put in there. If you know, let me know. That said, I'm kind of at a loss on that part of it. I did look online and last night, and someone said ground out the wire going to the sending unit and see if your fuel gauge reacts. That would be next. So that's probably just going to go back together. I'm not going to pull that cluster apart. I don't feel it's worth it. And again, if you yell at me if I'm wrong. So we are waiting on parts for our fuel line. So we can't do any of that until our fuel line parts come in. Again, I don't know if you've seen the kits. They're a ton of money. O'Reilly's cannot piecemeal it, but Amazon can. So I think I got a 10-foot piece of 3/8 line, the two ends and the clamps for like $37. So that's just good food for thought. If you're in that situation and you don't want to buy the $247 kit and you just got one fuel line to do, you can piecemeal it on Amazon. I think they were all Dorman products. And so yeah, while waiting on that, I guess we're gonna go ahead and start on the bodywork. Like I said previously, I've done a fender before this side on a 98. I can't remember if it was the same exact setup. I did initially want to leave the inner fender in place and not have to remove the battery, the fuse block, harnesses, sensors, all that, and just use a spot weld cutter to separate everything. But upon further inspection, if I went through this side, because you have this piece here plus the fender, and that's what it comes with, you would actually be drilling through two pieces of metal to separate this here. And then, you know, here's your fender, here's your spot welds. Going to be in, I don't know if you can tell the distance, but very hard to get anything in there to drill out said spot welds, and then you go all the way down into there. That said, I think the best way, and again, as always, let me know if I'm wrong, is to remove everything in one piece, drill out the inner fender from the back here, spot welds that is, cut out the spot welds, and then plug weld it on the table, and then reinstall everything. Yeah, so I think that's going to be the plan. So that said, let me get started on removing all this stuff. I have, the battery tray has been out before because we were inspecting wiring, all the wiring before, for the last couple weeks. And so I had that out, so that'll come out easy. Fuse block, we worked on it, so that'll come easy. It's all gonna come out easy, I guess is what I'm saying here. So let me get this removed. We'll start to remove the fender. I don't know if I'm going to video all of it. It's supposed to be super hot out today. Do you really want to, you know, I'll bring it back in when all this is removed. If you never removed one of these lights, they're a pain in the butt. There's a bolt down there, And I believe there's one, let me see, right there. I believe it's just the two. It's just, you know, you really can't get anything in here. This one you can because, you know, the whole truck's messed up. But normally you have to take this top bumper cover off. But I think I can sneak something in there to remove this light. Other than that, it's just removing bolts. Pretty standard issue stuff. So unless I run into a snag or something interesting, I'm gonna just bring you back in when we start removing stuff and go from there. All right, wish me luck. So I'm not even 5 minutes in, and let's take a look. So this turn signal didn't really want to work the other day, and you had to do the old, you know, whack the light deal. And so when I took it apart, here's what I found. Someone did something and they put heat shrink connectors in and never did the heat shrink thing. And then looks like they used some liquid electrical tape, but didn't even really get it to where it needed to go. I don't just, what is that one? There's a cut wire coming out of there. I'm just tired. I'm tired of this thing. This entire truck has just been molested. I just hate to use that word, but debauchery, I don't know. That's a better word than, I don't like molested. That's not a good word. Debauchery. There's so much debauchery going on in this truck. Like I said, I'm not a smart guy.
I'm not a smart man.
But I know not to do stuff like this. So let's just chalk up another part that we have to spend money on. So we need a pigtail for there. And then I did have to, so this light assembly, headlamp assembly barely sneaks out of here. It's stupid design in my opinion. But we ended up having to manipulate this top bumper cover, and it kind of just fell off. So as it fell off, just bring in here. I don't think this is factory. Every single clip just says peanut butter all over them. So that's how you know it's good. Oh Lord, if I could just win Powerball, and none of this would matter. All right, big sigh. But anyway, let me dive back into it and see what else we find. Fender has been removed, and there it is. Very, very, very easy, simple job. Went very smooth, no snags. Other than that parking turn signal, pigtail socket we need to replace. I didn't find any other surprises. All the bolts came right out, and like I said, I think it's going to be easier to cut these spot welds from this side and then just weld it from this side and be done. As you saw previously in the video, the fender comes primed. As far as paint goes, I think we're gonna just get it all installed, make sure everything fits correctly. We'll do the rocker panel on the other side. Try and figure out ABS, brake light. I'm at the point where we're just going to try and leave the module unplugged unless I have an epiphany or something, you know, some kind of small miracle happens. Get an inspection sticker on it, then we'll, you know, take all this back apart. Like I said, it's super simple. And then we'll do a video on painting the fender and rocker panel. I'd love for just, you know, send the truck to someone and have them paint it, but the theme of this whole channel is doing things with almost nothing. You've seen, if you've watched previous videos, I super appreciate it. If you haven't, go check them out. We make things happen with the crudest, simplest, cheapest tools and materials we have here. So everything's very affordable, on a budget. I don't know if you've seen this. Sorry for the glare, the sun's out in full blast. This is just, I think this They sell these on Amazon. I don't even know, EP Auto. This was, I think, like $35 when I bought it. It was next to nothing, and I use it for everything, and it gets abused and over torqued, and it's been great. I haven't broken a single socket. I will say, let me go in the shade so we can see better. The only complaint is this ratchet. So those two Torx screws are super tiny. Take a super tiny bit, and if you don't have it, these constantly loosen up. And I have the bit and I just tighten them. I really just need to Loctite them, which I just don't have any Loctite, and I'm cheap, so I haven't bought any Loctite yet. I definitely need to, and once those are Loctite, you know, down so they don't continue to loosen up, that'll be it. But I think they have a bigger set for like $78 on Amazon, and I'm thinking of, you know, keeping the small set across the street for dirt bike stuff, and then use the bigger set over here because I have a hodgepodge of old sockets and ratchets and wrenches, and I'm missing a bunch. So really good bang for the buck is what I'm trying to tell you. So again, we're just trying to keep it simple, low cost, and so yeah, that said, I'm rambling. Let's get this. Let me get in the rot box house over there, barn, shop, garage, whatever you want to call it, structure that's falling down. How's that one? We'll get this on the bench. I'll show you how to use the spot weld cutter if you've never used one. I had never used one. I can't remember for the life of me how I separated this on my 98. I really don't know. So I went ahead and bought a spot weld cutter that was recommended to me. I did have to watch videos on how to use it because it came with a drill bit, and I couldn't figure out why it came with the drill bit. In the YouTube videos, no one is using a drill bit. I'm assuming said drill bit is to drill all the way through every layer of material. Again, I'm rambling. Let's get this on the bench. We'll use the spot weld cutter, get this inner fender separated, hopefully get the new fender plug welded to the inner fender, and get this back on the truck and go from there. We're inside on the half-rotted bench. Got our fender. So I bought this Yuan Lion, let's just call it the Lion Premium, so you know it's good. Spot weld cutter on Amazon for like 25 bucks. Never used one before, and watched some videos. Very straightforward. It's just a little mini hole saw is all it is. That said, let's look at the fender here. I'm a little nervous about the angle. The inner fender is kind of porking me on getting into those spot welds, you know, straight. I got my, we're gonna have to end up using the air drill anyway because those batteries are, that cordless drill is probably 8 years old and the batteries are on their last leg. So we'll probably end up using this, but still we don't quite the angle. I'm still gonna try and do it this way. So some of the spot welds are quite obvious, but if they're not in your case, take your favorite sanding device. I am a big fan of the Whizzer Wheel, and just, you know. So yeah, you can see your spot weld there. If you don't have one of these, super cheap, but if you don't have one, yeah, I mean, you can use a piece of sandpaper. Again, if you're on a budget, anything will work. That's how you can locate your spot welds. So yeah, let's look at this Lion set here. What's kind of neat about it, I like the design of them. I guess they're kind of all the same, but you get extra cutters, but it's actually 2 cutters in one. You can, you know, flip them over. It's hard to like grab stuff through the camera while you're filming. It just doesn't. Is it right here? You get that sensation too? Anyways, here's the actual cutter. This center is just spring loaded. So I wondered that too when I was like, well, how does that work? And it's just gonna, oh, get your fat hand out of the way. It's just gonna spring load in there. Where am I here? Focus. The tip is pretty pointy. Everyone else, you use a center punch or small drill bit. I don't have a center punch. I can't believe it, or I can't find it. So I'm just going to try and go and attack one. And obviously we're just trying to drill through the first layer. So there's no depth gauge. You just do it by feel and experience. So let me get set up here, and I'll try it with the cordless drill because obviously it's super tedious. Everyone online, it takes a while. I mean, we got these spot welds are every couple inches, so it's going to take some time. Let me do one for you, one-handed with the cordless drill, see if we can release one, and then, you know, I'll go ahead, do the rest, bring it back in, hopefully have this thing separated, and we'll go from there. Okay, I'm gonna try and do one-handed for you, because I don't feel like setting up the camera above. It's hot, it's humid, I'm grumpy, I'm sorry, okay? I just want to get one done for you so you get the gist, and then we'll go to messing them all up here. Okay, so let's try and drill this one. Yeah, that's what I said. It will try and walk off on you. Sorry. I'm trying to do lefty here. Focus. See if we can. All right, sorry. Let me fix the camera here a little bit. See if we can just get you in here. And come on, camera. Focused. Losing it. Crazy with the heat. That's about it. You're just drilling around that spot weld. And let me see if I can get, I'm just going to use a junk chisel and a hammer. See if we can get under there and just focus. The camera's not liking the focus today. Anyway, you get the gist of it. Let me see. I got to put you down for a second so I can separate this spot weld. All right? Let me see if I can do the thing. Success. It's really that simple, folks. You can see, I'm just using a junk chisel and a hammer. We just pried, in between the fender and inner fender. And thanks to our handy dandy little $24 spot weld cutter, we're now separated on the one spot weld. Now we just have, 30 more to go. All right, let me continue to do these, and when I get this thing separated, we'll bring you back in. If I find anything interesting, we'll bring you back in sooner. Deal? Fantastic. If you're laughing at me right now, please laugh heartily. As I'm drawing this second one out, I just, the two brain cells are not working in unison today. It's hot, it's humid, and it's just, my stupidity knows no bounds, right? Do you agree? Do you see why we're being just a complete idiot here? Oh, Lord Jesus, help me in heaven.
Save me, Jeebus!
I just, some days if I was sounding sluggish this morning, it was because, I don't really drink much. I had a couple drinks last night because of the stress, and I was a bit sluggish. Well, I'm awake now. I've had some water. Pedialyte. If you're into exercise, Pedialyte is amazing for recovery. Helps the hangover. Not that I get those anymore. I really don't drink anymore. But it's a great post-workout drink to recover. It's better than Gatorade. I don't love the sucralose in it, but it seems to work really well for me on these hot, humid, had a couple drinks last night, bit sluggish, pulls me out of my funk. So there's my plug for Pedialyte. Go get you some and get re-energized. But it obviously does nothing for my two brain cells. The reason for using this plug cutter, and I'm sure you guys are already just going, what an idiot, is to you know, not drill through both pieces of material because you're reusing one and not the other. Do you catch my drift? Do you see where I'm going with this? We're not reusing the old rotten fender. We're reusing the inner fender. So it doesn't matter, Mike, if you know, use the hole saw or just the drill bit. Because guess what? We don't care about the old fender. We only care about the inner fender, right? So we just really need to drill out, you know, we don't need to work, we can just use a drill bit is what I'm getting at. I take it back. I did it on purpose to see if you guys would catch it, right? No, wrong. I'm a jackass. That said, I don't know. Oh, another tip when using this that I saw on a YouTube video. I should have plugged his YouTube because he was the only one that said it, and it actually does work. When using this plug cutter, when you're first starting to drill, do not put pressure on it. Let the cutter do the work until you get the cut started. If you try to use pressure, that's when it's going to bounce and jump and run away on you. But if you just go gently and kind of, you know, get that cut started so you can get this, you know, mini hole saw, you know, set. You're just setting the blade, really. You know what I mean? If you try to force it, it's gonna, you know, it's a coarse tooth bit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so until you get that cutter set in that ring, don't you know, use all of your arm. Just go easy. Let the saw do the work, and then once you have it set, then you can go full bore. But yeah, I thought you'd have a good laugh. I'm sure you were laughing already, screaming at the TV, going, Mike, you jackass. But yeah. So I'm probably just going to try the drill bit that came with the kit, just to see, you know, how well it works. And if it doesn't work well, maybe I'll go back to the cutter just for practice. You know, they say practice makes perfect. Definitely not in my case, but yeah, it would be good practice just to try the whole cutter, and it seems to work really well. It's pretty easy. So I'm once again rambling, crazy from the heat, crazy from the humidity, grumpy from the humidity. So yeah, there's nothing worse than just standing here and sweating your ass off. But once again, I'm rambling. So let me get these drilled out, and I'll bring you back in, and we'll go from there. As you can see, we got all of our spot welds cut. I will say I went, after trying one with the drill bit, I went right back to the cutter. So I guess, even though I'm a jackass, anyways, let's forget that never happened. The drill bit walked considerably more. Even I did find a nail set with a pretty, almost a point to it. I don't know the word, fine, small head, whatever. The camera today in the focus. And that actually, believe it or not, did the you know, the center punch thing. So that kind of worked. Excuse me. Got some metal shavings in my throat. And I will say that tip that I said about letting the cutter do the, you know, letting the teeth do the work before you, you know, put all your weight into it is a good example. This one here, I believe that's the crash sensor to, you know, set off the airbags. Well, I didn't want to remove it because of, you know, that. I just didn't want to fight it. I'm sick of fighting everything. And so you can see here, you know, I had a pretty extreme angle on this spot weld because that was in the way and I didn't want to remove it. But even with an extreme angle, if you just let the cutter do the work and start the, you know, set those blades so it doesn't walk around, you can even do angles with this thing and it worked just fine. So now the moment of truth. Is this thing going to separate? Let's see if we can get you in here, and maybe I can just do it without the hammer, and we'll just watch it fly apart, hopefully. Okay, so we're separated up until here. That one's popped. Okay, we got it. Let's just cut that one a skosh more. See what that does for our life. Well, that one really. I do this to show. I thought it'd be really. I was hoping the thing would just pop off in one piece and really satisfying, look good on camera. Obviously, that's not the case. I'm trying for you guys. I'm trying for you. It's so sweaty today. That was a good chop. See, we got all of that one. Oh, there's the culprit. We missed the spot welds because, you know, the 2 brain cell thing. All right, let me drill. Well, let's just see if we can do it together. You like doing stuff together, right? Let's just see if we can quickly let the cutter do the thing by itself. I tell you, these cutters for $24, I'm sold. I use the same one for all of them, and man, it makes real easy work of the thing. It goes quick. You don't have to sit there for a long time, and I know it's shaky. But yeah, they work well. It's actually kind of fun. I actually like doing it. I thought it was going to be super tedious and not fun, but I actually quite enjoyed it because I've never done it before, and pretty satisfying, if I do so say myself. So after further inspection, we are all freed up. I did tap most of it down. I'll finish that. So this bracket right here is part of the fender. It's spot welded here, but it's also spot welded to the bottom of our inner fender. The new fender comes with this bracket, spot welded on, so we have to separate this bracket from this inner fender. I'll flip it around, we'll cut it out, and you know the drill by now. We'll separate it and then go from there. This had 4 spot welds. I don't know if you can see right there, that one took off of me because, you know, your whole life you're taking stuff apart and you're kind of using all of your arm and body. This was much thicker. I will say if you have rusty metal behind it, it's kind of neat because it lets you know when you're all the way through, because you'll see a big cloud of rust, and then bang, you're there. So that said, that should be released. Oh, and there you have it. There is one inner fender. I guess we could have just, you know, focus thing today. There she goes now. I guess we could have bought one. Are these available? I didn't even look. But, I don't know, made pretty good content. I'm sold on that cutter. Even through that thick stuff, it went right through it, didn't have to change it. So yeah, pretty cool. Anywho, that said, let me get this little back in shape. And we'll have to grind the rest of those spot welds off that area because we'll have to weld that. Hopefully there's something to weld to. I mean, fucking focus. You can see there, well, you can see the blur there. There it goes, sort of. Pretty rotted, so see if we have anything to weld to there, but if not, not a big deal. Plenty of other places to weld to. So let me get that cleaned up, and then we'll get rid of this old pile of junk here, get this new pile of junk on the bench, and we'll prep it. We'll prep everything, and the focus today, look, it wants to stay blurry for some reason. Maybe I need to clean it. There it goes. Not sure what's up with it. I just use my phone. Let me know what you guys use for cameras. If you're doing the YouTube thing, Let me know what you use. Everyone seems to hate the GoPro, but then at the same time, everyone seems to use said GoPro. I'm cheap. My phone works pretty good. I really need to get some kind of holder, like, I hate to use the word selfie stick, but something, I literally just hold it with my hand, and you see my fat fingers get in the way, and I drop the thing, it's blurry. If I had like a phone stick holder contraption, it would help, but again, I'm cheap. I don't want to spend the money. Anyways, I'm rambling once again. We have our new fender in place with our old inner fender, and what I like about it is, if you see over here, right there, there's a lip, and it goes all the way around, so it's, you know, virtually mic proof. It's, you know, it's a locator. You just, you know, put it in place and that's it. You know, we're off to the races. So that said, we're just gonna take, well, I'm gonna take a paint marker, and I'm just gonna, you know, instead of, you know, grinding the paint off the entire thing, I'm just gonna grind where we need to plug weld. So yeah, simple, super easy. We're just gonna do and take this and do this, and this marker's new, never been used before, so okay. Is it gonna work? Wow. How do you work this thing? I think you're supposed to hold it down, if I remember right. There she blows. Okay, let's put that there, do that. And we're just gonna mark those, and then we'll grind away the paint, clean it up, and then we'll be ready to plug weld. Let me get that done and I'll bring it back in. We have everything cleaned up and in place. We have our ground for our welder on. There's really no place to clamp it. There's one place here, so I got it there. Like I said, it has the lip on the other side, so it's mic proof. It's sitting really well right in here and against the lip, so I think I'm gonna start in here and then work my way out. This end, we want to kind of flush with the inside of the fender there, so I'll just work it as I go. Yeah, pretty straightforward. If you've never done plug welding, don't worry, neither have I. So I just went on the YouTubes and watched one. We're just gonna see, I didn't know where I was pointing when I'm behind the camera. Isn't that goofy? Left brain, right brain, blah, can't speak, whatever. We're just gonna start on the outside and make a circle and work our way onto the inside. And it's as simple as that. As far as welder settings go, a lot of people don't talk about them, but you know, I like this welder. It makes it mic proof. So millimeter 1 to 2 for our voltage and wire speed C to E. I think I'm going to start 1.5 and start on wire speed C. If we get a lot of popping, we'll turn the speed down. If we start to burn through, we'll turn the temp down, or vice versa. So let me get set up here, and I'll do a couple with you, see what kind of mess we can make. Keep in mind, this is a flux core welder. It's gasless. It's not going to do as nice and neat job as a gas welder would do. Meaning, when we go to weld this, we're going to get spatter. We're going to get, you know, brown clouds of stuff on the metal. It'll clean up, not a big deal. Keep in mind, we're on the inside of the fender. You're never going to see this. So, yeah. Let's see if we can make it happen. So we got everything set up, ready to go, and I just wanted to mention, if you have weak constitutions, you might not want to hear this, but it is like 90 degrees in the sun with all the humidity. I think I've mentioned this trash pile before. It is, you know, dumpsters are expensive. It's $500 for a 15-yard, 2 tons. It's a lot of money for me right now. We do finally have one coming. What day is today? I'm gonna say this week. But, and the big reason I pushed for it is because something died in here. And let me tell you, the smell is just, I don't know if you can see any flies. There's a bunch of flies, and I was walking by here the other day, and I'm like, what is going on? If you know the death smell, you can't miss it. So let me tell you right now, I've been in this house all day and all I can smell is the odor of death. And it's, couple that with the heat and humidity, it's not pleasant. It's making this for a hard video. Well, let's flip the switch on here. Do I have it plugged in? Hopefully I do. Switch on. And let's grab our gun. Like I said, I'm happy right about here. And let's see if we can just both watch this. I don't know how far away I want the camera. If I can do this with just one hand. Let me try. Where are we? There we are. Again, we have the old flux core, but that's the basic gist of it. Where's my wire brush? Easy. So that's pretty messy. I'll probably, yeah, we didn't get a lot going on there. Try another one. It's hard to do with one hand. Might have to turn the temp up just a skosh. I don't feel like I'm getting good penetration on the old fender. Let me do a couple and I'll bring it back in. So that's basically what the flux core does. It leaves all that brown byproduct and splatter, and it kind of gets everywhere. And there's another one. Don't be afraid to play around with your voltages and wire speeds. I've been fiddling around and we're getting close. I'm not an expert welder by any means. If you see me doing something wrong or whatever, but thank God for me, you know, that one's pretty terrible. You know, that one we're getting close. Brutal. You know, and this is all just messing around with the wire speed and temperature, because I don't do this every day. Pretty bad. And the other thing I don't get to, we're welding old 27-year-old steel to brand new Taiwan steel. I don't know who made it 27 years ago, but probably not the same company. So that's a big question I always have. When you're welding two metals that are alike, but they're really not alike, so like for this one here, you know, we're not getting good penetration into the old, but we're melting, I mean, take that back, flip that around. We're not getting very good penetration of the new, and we're melting the old because it's so thin and old. So I'm assuming, again, you're just playing around with voltages and wire speeds until you kind of get the formula right. So if you got any tips or advice on that, I'd greatly appreciated. The guy on the TV, on the YouTube, he made it look so easy. 2 seconds with his gas welder, done. It looked perfect. But again, I'm sure that's someone who does it almost every day. We do not. It's just an inner fender. I don't want to say it's just an offender. I'd like it to be perfect, but I know it's, you know, with my skill set and level, it's not going to be. But will the inner fender be attached to the new fender? Yes. Will it serve its purpose? Yes. That said, let me get these finished up. I'll get them cleaned up, bring it back in, and show you how they turned out. So here are my plug welds all, well, not all done. This is pre-grinder. I wanted you to see how messy and awful they look before I cleaned them up. Because this was kind of my way and I couldn't like work the circle all the way around, I kind of did it in sections. Oof, I don't know what happened there. Some of them are pretty ugly. Does it look like the other professional welders on the YouTube video I watched? No. Did it do the same thing? Yes. You know where this thing's going? Nowhere. So that said, let me get this cleaned up and I'll bring it back after I get this all grinded up and go from there. Okay, so here we are. Here's the semi-finished product. Got that all grounded down. And is it perfect? No. Did we accomplish our mission? 100%. I don't know what happened there. We'll ignore that one. Couldn't get the grinder in there. Couldn't get the grinder in there. And there's that. I also didn't have any primer, but what I did have in stock is this Roscioli Metallic Paint and Primer 1. Flat brushed amber. Don't know if that's an enamel or... I have no idea what that is, but man, look at that. That's sexy, huh?
Oh, come on. Look at that, sexy, ain't it?
Well, use what you got. And then I also, if you can see there, we got the Permatex rust converter, rust treatment. That was the cheapest. That's why I bought that one. And it does the chemical reaction thing. And we just hit it everywhere where there was blatant rust. So we'll keep the rust at bay for at least a month. And then I'll hit it with probably the same sexy brown metallic we got going on. All right, well, that said, all there's left to do for now is install this fender. It's the reverse process. Not gonna show it unless I run into a snag, something's way off, our lines are horrible, or whatnot. And then when we get it all back together, I'll bring you in and we'll go from there. The fender is now set loosely in place. I have all my bolts started. And I have to say, for a Taiwan aftermarket fender, it barely fought me. It almost went into place by itself. I mean, I really did nothing. Look at this door gap. It's a little wide there, but if we go to compare it to the other side, I mean, this truck is a piece of crap. It's almost the same thing. We're tight here, and then we really start to open up here. It's almost identical to the factory side that's on there. I did have to, I don't know what this piece is called. I did have to loosen the 3 bolts back there and lift up on this to get that in place. And my only complaint, I mean, look at this. Look, can you see? I haven't touched anything. Look at the surface from the door. That's crazy. I mean, I don't do these every day, but I hear the horror stories, how notoriously these are for like fitting horribly. My only complaint is this, let's get you, the hole doesn't line up and there's no way I can push that back that far. So I'm just gonna have to drill a hole. I'm just gonna send a nut and a bolt through it and be done with it. Other than that, that's it. We're done, we're on. Tighten these bolts up. Of course, I'm going to leave the light out because I have to buy that pigtail that's down there. That's a mess. But yeah, that's it. Don't be scared to do a fender yourself. I mean, it really wasn't bad. Especially if you're a better welder. It took me a little time to, do the weld. I actually liked the plug cutter. That thing was amazing for $24. Oh, the fender. Let's talk about this. So the fender and the rocker. I searched high and low for the cheapest ones, and I think carparts.com had the cheapest. I think it was $137 for the fender, and like, I want to say $64 for the rocker. But wait, back the truck up a bit. That's before you add shipping and handling. They wanted it was over $200 for shipping and handling. So when I went to checkout and the bill was $400, I said, what, wait, back the truck up a minute. That doesn't work out. The shipping and handling was ridiculous. So I hate to admit it because I love Amazon, but I don't like Amazon, but I like Amazon. I like the convenience of it, but usually, there's a lot of third-party sellers and it's kind of price gouging. But truth be told, on this purchase, I paid $200 and change for the fender, and I think I paid $84 for the rocker. The shipping was minimal. I think it was right around the $300 mark, and it was delivered in 2 days. FedEx, it showed up, and you saw it. There's, the packing material, there was none, but there's one little tiny dent that you're never gonna see, and yeah, it was saved $100. So I guess the moral of the story is shop around, price everything out. Don't forget shipping and handling, and yeah. I think we're running long on time on this, so I think that might end the video here. Like I said, I just got to tighten bolts, fenders on. I'm pretty happy with it, and we still have a lot more to do. So we still have rocker panel to do. That's, you know, I've never done one. It's going to be a little bit more involved than this one as far as fitting, cutting out, cutting spot welds. And then I'm still waiting on fuel line. Probably won't show that up. Maybe I'll show it quick just to see how I made it up. And then we have to, you know, I don't know how much farther I'm going on the ABS and the fuel gauge. I'm tired. You know, if you guys got suggestions, please, by all means, leave some comments. Let me know what you think. If you've watched the video, you know where we're at. Very strange coincidence as we're rooting around for ABS problems. I shouldn't even say ABS, it's the brake light, right? I'm pretty sure ABS, you don't need it to pass inspection, but brake light on, that's a safety failure. So we're just trying to shut the brake light off. Very strange, we lost fuel gauge while poking around everything. But like I said, the fuel sender tested normal, and I ohmed out wires, those tested normal. We didn't ground out the wire to the sender to see if it messes with the fuel gauge or you get a, you know, a reading, reaction, I don't know. We'll do that, and I'll probably record it, but I think for now we're gonna wrap this one up. I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm a little grumpy, I reek like death. If you have been watching the video, you'll know why. We'll get all this buttoned wiring back up. I don't think you want to see that. It's just putting stuff back in place. And as always, thank you guys for watching, if you were. And I appreciate any advice, any tips, any help. Please comment and let me know what you think. That said, hope to see you on the next one.